You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hi, General Hospital fans. Drew Quartermaine is getting more controlling by the day where Willow Tait is concerned. And I just want to know, is he going to end up as bad as Shiloh Archer before all is said and done? Is he Shiloh 2.0? It's Belinda from Soap Dirt. And we're going to look at the similarities between Drew and his over-the-top antics we're seeing lately compared to Dawn of Day cult leader Shiloh and how each of these men treat Willow. If you have not subscribed, please click that button. And now let's dish about Drew and the dead dude from Willow's horrible past. The other day, while talking to Chase, we heard Willow saying that she seems to be looking for heroes, someone to save her from one thing or another. And if you remember, Chase was very helpful when she was trying to get away from creepy cult leader Shiloh. And Willow is just wondering about her taste in men, and she should, because she's making a big fat mistake with Drew. I mean, Michael Corinthos might have kept secrets and, lightly blackmailed her mother, but he looks like a Boy Scout compared to both Drew Q and Shiloh Archer. And if you think at a glance, nah, Drew's not nearly as bad as Shiloh, you may want to reconsider. I got some things to tell you, things to remind you about. Those two have a fair amount in common that you just can't overlook. Willow is getting herself in deeper with a guy she might not be able to get away from, another stalkery guy. And first of all, in case you forgot, Drew and Shiloh knew each other from way back in the day off screen before either of them wound up in Port Charles. They were in Afghanistan and knew each other from there, but they were in different capacities. Drew was a Navy SEAL and Shiloh was a private contractor. To be fair, Drew was heroically serving overseas while Shiloh was self-serving and a dirty thief and doing bad things. But Drew saved his life, and Shiloh tried to say that was the turning point in his life. It really wasn't. He was still a dirtbag. So this whole military service in Afghanistan thing, privately or, as a SEAL, that's one thing in common. Second is the cult thing. Think about it. One of the guys started a cult, Shiloh, and the other seems to have grown a following of his own thanks to his political career. Drew has power and followers and a soapbox to share his opinions, and he's got influence. Meanwhile, Shiloh built a cult of personality over at Dawn of Day. He was charismatic, a lot like Drew is. He had power, he had followers, he had influence. Remember, he had people in his cult in the police and government. So his power wasn't political, it was religious, but they both wield quite a bit of power. Now, Shiloh's is all gone now because he's dead, but you can kind of see that, right? Shiloh and Drew were both born into money, but Shiloh burned through his inheritance and Drew was adopted out and didn't find out about his big bucks until much later in his life. But just interesting. And by the way, both of them had an interest in Sam McCall. Different interest, though, because Shiloh wanted revenge on Sam for running a con on his wealthy dad and cheating him out of money that Shiloh was hoping to get, and then he wound up killing his dad. And Drew, of course, had a legitimate romance with Sam, and they had a child together. And speaking of the cult and romances, and we're going to go into some disgusting sexual scenarios for a minute, Shiloh was, if you don't remember, an icky rapist who drugged Willow, took her virginity, and when he got her pregnant, she ran away from the cult to have the baby in secret. Of course, that is so much worse than anything Drew would ever do. Absolutely, I grant you that. But when it comes to bad bedroom behavior, there is something that Shiloh and Drew do have in common that is gross. Do you remember Harmony Miller, the woman who secretly adopted and raised Willow? Harmony is who Willow grew up calling mom, and Shiloh was sleeping with Harmony before he started molesting Willow. So you can see where I'm going with this. Drew was getting frisky with Willow's biological mother, Nina Reeves, before he got into bed with Willow. So yes, both of these men slept with Willow and her two moms. It's just gross. They also have violent past. Drew was a trained SEAL who was later kidnapped and given to Helena Cassadine to be brainwashed into a killing machine. And then years later, Victor Cassadine got his hands on Drew to make him into a killing machine. And for most of his adult life, Shiloh was also off doing violent things, sometimes soldier of fortune kind of things, other things just because he was a horrible criminal. And he had no excuse of being a soldier or brainwashed into murder. Shiloh killed his dad. He killed Harmony's husband. He did bad things in Afghanistan. Drew took lives as soldier, but that's in the line of duty. You know, that falls under the valor and the heroism. But then later, for the Cassadines, Drew killed a lot of people. He doesn't even remember how many people he killed. He had no control over his actions, but what we see is this talent for violence in both men. Now let's talk about how Shiloh treated Willow and how it's similar to some of the behaviors we're seeing with Drew and Willow. We know from history things that happened off screen that Shiloh was fixated on, you know, with Willow. He really wanted her, and he had Harmony give her daughter to him. He drugged and raped her repeatedly. He was extremely controlling, and Willow was never allowed to make decisions for herself while in the cult. She lived under his thumb, and then when she found out she was pregnant, she ran off and she made a life for herself. And now we have Drew basically trying to take control of her life because he is fixated on her and doesn't want to let her go, even though his involvement with her got her kids yanked away and people hating her. And don't forget, after their first couple of kisses, but before they slept together, Willow repeatedly told Drew, "Stay away from me." She even quit her job, but he wouldn't listen or respect her requests for distance. Similarly, Shiloh never respected Willow's demands that he leave her alone. The difference is Willow actually wanted Drew and was fighting temptation. Still, when a woman says stay away, that's what you should do, and Drew didn't. Shiloh wanted to control Willow's life so he could have her and the son they made together. Similarly, Drew is trying to control Willow's life to be with her and her two kids. He's trying to blend their families, and Drew already basically told Alexis Davis he's going to make Willow Scout's mom, you know, which I think she was really bothered by, disrespecting Sam, but he thinks he's got it all figured out. The problem is this new custody deal that Jason brokered with Tracy to get Willow's kids back is something Drew doesn't like. Jason got them both to agree that Willow will live at the gatehouse with Wiley and Amelia so she can be with her kids, but so can Monica Quartermaine, you know, have access to them. But we all know Drew is not welcome there, so this is going to be problematic, and he knew it. So he called Martin Gray to come see him without Willow there, and it sounds like Drew wants to pick up where Nina left off. Remember, Willow's mom got Martin to issue separation papers for Michael and Willow without even checking with her daughter. Now it sounds like Drew wants Martin to do what's necessary to get Willow divorced from Michael while he is overseas and healing, and also making sure she gets custody of the kids in that case. And Martin knew right away why Drew wants this to happen, so he can have Willow all to himself. And I'm sure Drew's already picturing them married, blending their families, him playing daddy to her kids, and he just has basically stolen Michael's whole life. And Drew is doing it without consulting Willow, just like he had Tracy arrested without consulting her and was making ultimatums to Carly and Sonny at GH, just speaking for Willow, not letting her speak for herself. And as Drew keeps on with this behavior, it seems Willow is going to just let him keep steamrolling her and everything else in his path. The 2025 GH preview says their romance is official. Most people in Port Charles are going to hate it, but they won't be dissuaded, which means Drew is, I think, going to full on gaslight Willow into thinking he knows best for her and the kids. The main difference with Shiloh and Drew is she sees Drew as a savior because he got Liesl Obrecht back in time to give her that bone marrow donation and save her life. Meanwhile, Willow sees Shiloh as the devil. But maybe that savior and that devil are just two sides to the same controlling coin.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.